Please welcome Jody Levy.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi.
Hi.
Clicker.
Your tool, man.
All right. My hydration. Hi. My name is Jody Levy. I'm the co-founder and creative director of Watermelon Water. Green, right? And I'm here today to tell you a love story. A liquid love story. But the key is that my love story is your love story. And what I mean by that is, as Jeff said, I'm going to tell you the story of Watermelon Water as a case study for what everybody can do with a company, a brand, and a product. And there's a method to the madness that I employ for all different types of industries, whether it's fashion, tech, automotive, beverage. And when I'm done sharing my story, I'm going to get into the formula so that you guys can all craft your own love story. So in 2013, I found my other half. Unexpectedly, it was an ugly watermelon. And this happened when my co-founder, Harlan Berger, who's here with me today, tells me this fact that there's 800 million pounds of unused watermelons just in America every year, which was astonishing. Like, we're talking ugly, oddly shaped, sunburned, unwanted, wasted melons that typically growers just till back into the soil with wasted resources and wasted energy. And with that came this idea that he wanted to make watermelon juice. Thought he was crazy. So we set out with this intention to create a socially and environmentally responsible company that was committed to bringing clean, healthy food to the masses and using all different types of innovation and food science to do so. And we created the product, which is called Watermelon Water. For those of you that don't know, Watermelon Water is a cold-pressed hydration product. It's only fresh watermelon, flesh, rind, and organic lemon. And then we sent it to the lab. And we found out that it's got all of these amazing functional hydration properties. So 6 times more electrolytes than most of the leading sports drinks. L-citrulline, which is a vasodilator that helps pre and post workout. It helps prevent muscle fatigue and helps with muscle recovery. L-citrulline actually only exists in watermelon in nature. And then we found out about the anti-inflammatory effects of lycopene and vitamin C and magnesium, and all of a sudden, not only were we making a product with wasted watermelons, but we were making a product that happened to be the very best form of hydration and performance enhancing and fitness. So, once you develop a product, it's really important to distill the core communication, because there's oftentimes a lot of stories and a lot of people we're talking to. And for us, our core communication was hydration. Everything's hydration. How do we tell the world not why they, would like to have watermelon water, but why they need to have watermelon water every day, before and after workouts? And so we set out with this mission to get our core communication into the world. And we started with, why should people drink it? Obviously, hydration because of the electrolytes, the performance-enhancing benefits because of the citrulline, the antioxidants which come from the vitamin C and the lycopene, and because it tastes delicious. So we went out big. At the time, in 2013, nothing in the watermelon world existed, so we were building a category. And we did a large-scale media campaign that ran in New York City, Times Square. But the key was focused core communication. So as you guys are building your brands or thinking about how to refine your brands and the communication around your product, it's imperative that you distill that singular message and it shows up everywhere. For us, it's hydration and performance, your new sexy workout partner. And then we started hitting the shelves. And it's, the United States of fresh hydration. And this is what the shelves started to look like around the country. So we had the product, people were loving it. We had this story that we defined. And then it became the chance to think about, how do we create really impactful, meaningful connections with consumers? And I call that the brand experience. And, I know all of us are on shoestring budgets in this industry, and there's a lot that you can do with a little. But the key is to think about ways to immerse people in your brand, to connect people to it, to connect people to each other. And I like to think about reciprocal communications. How do you give people something? How do you give back when we're telling stories and creating brand events? So it all starts with, making it memorable and reciprocal. We have a team of what we call baby dolls. Baby doll happens to be a type of watermelon. They're amazing fitness experts, nutrition experts. Many of them are women, some of them are men. They don't wear the bodysuits, but they're in full body athletic suits, and they do demos and they go to events. And when people interact with them, it's an instant way to shift perspective. So you think about, how do you shift people's vantage points? How do you pull them out of their phones or whatever they're doing to give them a moment to make them smile or make them feel something or make them remember you? And everything that we do is about clean hydration and fitness. So we activate at yoga events, we do outdoor running clubs, we do indoor fitness, we do boxing events, we have cycling teams. We go to Sundance and do on-mountain activations. We've even thrown early morning dance parties as a fitness alternative. So we try to bring the essence of the brand into non-traditional places where our brand is activated. And we're all about education. They get into our mission in a little while, but this is our Get Schooled Hydration and Fitness Education mission. And this is our Liquid Love Ride. And the baby dolls go around the country in the Liquid Love Ride and educate people and sample product. And again, it's a way to really exemplify that idea of reciprocal communications, giving back to somebody. We play good music, we bring the vibe, we make people feel something, and they walk away remembering, and oftentimes sharing and telling other people about us. And it helps amplify and spread the story. We reinvent games. I'm big on analog. We've got Watermelon Water Twister, Spin the Bottle. This is a physical environment where people spin the wheel and get a different functional benefit. And we have pop-up shops and physical spaces. So on the left, you can see we have a retail store in Soho. And on the right, this is one of our pop-up activations for a Super Bowl event. Always trying to activate and invest in places that are aligned with our core communication, being fitness and sports. So when I talk about mission, I call it the mantra. But mission's really important today because we've got this world, we all hear about millennials. If we were all as discerning as millennials, the world we live in would be a better place because there's data points out there, and it's true that the millennial audience wants to support brands that are giving back, that are doing good for people and doing good for the planet. For us, it's all about this promise. It's a quality of where we source our melons, our interaction with our growers, how we produce, what goes into our product, the consciousness around how we do what we do. And that's all distilled into a mission called Seeding Change and Drinking Clean. This happens to be on the walls of all of our partners, distribution, manufacturing, our HPP facilities. It's a way for everybody that's part of the brand to know what the bigger cause and thinking of what we're doing is. So we promise clean. We have a clean product. We're committed to a clean planet with best practices of sustainability, and our partnerships around the country with our growers is committed to being the best we can. And it's about how we do the voodoo we do. And this is something to think about as you're telling your stories, especially as this new, audience is growing and really wants to know where our food comes from, where our products come from, how they're manufactured, who's touching them. Transparency is everything. So we use ugly melons, and we buy them from growers all over the country. And whenever we can, we tell that story. And we talk about our partners. And we tell stories. There's a story of one of our growers who had 250,000 tons of melons that would have been thrown away because there wasn't rainfall and they all got sunburned. Well, we've eliminated the waste from, he's the single largest grower in the country, because we now press it into watermelon water. And there's a couple months of the year because of the climate in America where we can't get ugly melons. So we work with the Department of Agriculture in Puerto Rico and we grow our own water. These are shots from our farms and our beekeeper. We're very proud of our watermelons. Okay, so now you've seen that you've got a product, you have a distilled core story, you've got a brand essence. Hopefully you can see that everything has the same look and feel and vibe and attitude, and the mission. And how you distill that down to one cohesive experience is really important. Give good social storytelling, of course, and it's not just digital. It's digital and analog. Take that story, take that communication, take the essence, and create experiences for people to participate in. And then use the social channels and the way that we can communicate and tell our stories to amplify it, and vice versa. And if any of you are not already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and if Twitter's still alive, I think we're still on Twitter maybe. WTRMLN, WTR, no vowels. We promise to keep you entertained. So this year we focused on the first layer of our mission, which is drink clean. And we announced one of our strategic investors and partners, Beyonce. And this was an unprecedented exposure that we got from the announcement of her partnership. And I think that the truth of why that was because she came out and came from the mission being educating people about clean, healthy living, using waste melons in new and different ways, being committed to supporting U.S. growers and female entrepreneurship. And because we led this influencer message with mission, we got a lot of attention throughout the world, and it successfully helped amplify the awareness of our brand. And as a true athlete on stage, helped solidify the core communication of hydration and performance enhancement. And as we announced the partnership with Beyonce, we started to create assets relative to that. And this is an example of, even when you stray from the core campaigns and marketing materials, it always has to be about the core communication. So be healthy, happy, healthy hydration. In addition to Beyonce, we have a handful of other amazing celebrity partners and athletes. Many of them have come to us because they've been using watermelon water as a way to up their game. On the left is a photo of our partner, Michael Strahan. Michael is an ex-All-Star NFL player and a TV personality. Xander Bogaerts is on the top right. He's a All-Star baseball player, and Chris Paul. And in all of these instances, everybody's aligned with this mission. So, all of these people that we're participating with and are participating with us really believe in using their voices to help make change in the world of food and beverage that we're living in. This is our Seeding Change initiative. Xander Bogaerts was a campaign that ran this year. Chris is coming. There's some more on the horizon. And this was one of the images from the campaign in Boston. We actually, the day that Xander became the #1 batter of the year, we were in the studio and we were pitching him watermelons. So this is a shot from that ran all over Boston. And to this point, somebody earlier was talking about this. The tribe that you build around a company is so important. I've just showed you a few of a very large network that is behind the success of watermelon water. And for us, we worship the melon. But I bring this up because as you guys are building and growing and looking at, your employees and your advisors and your partners and your executives and your investors, it's so important to be discerning about who is in the tribe and to make sure that they're really aligned and in belief of the mission and the core values of the company. Every company is like an organism. The right investor for one thing is not the right investor for the next. And with that comes the spirit. It's so important to define the spirit and the attitude and the edge of a brand. And every brand really needs that. And that's kind of at the core of everything. And that energy comes from the inside out. So once you've kind of gathered your tribe, which keeps on growing and growing and flexing and ebbing and flowing, you really define the spirit, which is about not just what you do, but how you do what you do. This gives you a little visual into some of the madness that's behind the curtain. Okay, so let's get back to we have a mantra, a mission, seeding change and drink clean. And we have a core communication which never strays, which is hydration and performance. What that translates to and what's coming this year is the Watermelon Water Love-nasium. And it's all about exercising love and loving to exercise. And you're going to see environments and imagery and partnerships that are all about watermelon water and how it amplifies the hydration and the performance, both in pro athletics as well as everyday athletes. So that brings us to the present. The United States of Fresh Hydration. We're in 15,000 stores around the country, and our displays oftentimes look like this. This is my co-founder, Harlan, and I. And so for the holidays, we did a special activation. Some of you in this room are in the hydration beverage space, and you know that there's a bell curve, and we are not in the swell of the bell curve. So to make us relevant for the holidays, we created a limited edition holiday pack. Every bottle of watermelon water across the country right now has holiday lights on it. And we did a partnership with Project Red, where every case sold sends a day's worth of life-saving medication to a woman in need. But something I want to point out is even in this partnership, we lead with hydration, holiday hydration delivered. So the core communication is threaded through everything that we do. Now, I will say a plug. This is the very best thing to bring to any party. It's the best mixer during the holidays. It's the best hangover remedy. You can get it online. You're supporting a good cause, seeding change. And then there's the movement. So I strongly believe that when you go out and you build a category and a brand and a product and you follow this method, you distill and crystallize a message so clear that it allows things to amplify and be understood. And with us, we have effectively created a category. A couple weeks ago, The Guardian in the UK rated watermelon water as 2017's #1 global food trend and cited our brand. So that's exciting. And when we look at, the evolution of fresh hydration, there really is a movement here, and we can see it with a lot of brands. But started with water and went into plant-developed products, then into the world of natural hydration and fresh hydration. So the future. I'm telling you nothing, but it's coming. This year's going to be really exciting. So if you guys follow along on our journey, you'll be able to keep up on everything that's coming soon. So that's watermelon water as a case study for this method. And I'm going to step through just the formula so that there's some thinking around how to apply this to any brand. And as I mentioned, because my love story is your love story. So this formula is something that I have used with all different types of companies, hospitality companies, brands that include, DJs and rock and roll brands and performers, automotive companies, different types of technology. And it always starts with the product, right? At this point, if we're having this conversation in this room, you guys have either solved a problem or invented a solution to a problem we didn't even know existed. But find your true love and really develop that core story. So what is the most important communication? And distill that down to something that is so clear and never stray from that core communication in anything that you do. Start to get into the brand experience. It's all about, I like to say, create the talked about experience. What are you putting out in the world that people can't help but share? That they want to take pictures of, that they want to be part of, that they want to go grab their best friend and bring them to it and say, check this out. I've never seen anything like this. You want to think about how to invite people to connect with what you're doing and immerse people in it. And if there is a mission, invite action and give people the story that you want them to go and share. And be consistent, like really consistent. There's the mission. I talked a little bit about this world of millennials, and people are getting really, really discerning about the brands that they buy and the products that they support. It obviously starts with how good it is for you and how it makes you feel and how it tastes, but it goes beyond that. It's a lot about what brands and companies are committed to doing for the planet and, giving back. We're all spending dollars. We're spending marketing dollars. Let's spend them in ways that are impressive and unique. So define your mantra. Make sure to put your ethos into practice from the inside out. Be as transparent and trustworthy as you can. It goes a really long way. Commit to social action if there's a social action. And make change. So this is that place where this is like the hardest part, where you take the product and you take your story and you've defined a look and feel and a vibe and an attitude and a voice, which I call brand essence, and your mission. And you operate from this place where you're bringing all these things together. And be social. Make sure you're telling your story. Analog, digital, be relatable. Make stories people can't help but share. The tribe, build your community that share your core values, and never underestimate the energy of the people involved. Define your spirit, energy, vibe, whatever the word is, but it's that thing that's in everything. It's the glue that holds it all together. And make people feel something. I like to make people feel good, but make people feel something, because that's what creates that indelible impression. The movement, inspire change people can get into. And the future. Know where you're headed and what's significant about your potential. And be the change you want to see in the world. And then most importantly, the magic. Love what you do and love who you do it with, because only this moment is life. So I can't wait to hear about what all of your love stories are. Thank you for having me.
Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Now we see what you do. It's so impressive. Got some great questions from the audience. The first one I wanted to ask is, how'd you establish the sort of visual aesthetic for the brand? It's so minimalist and hip.
Ooh, how did we establish it?
Yeah.
That's a tricky question. Instinct?
Yeah. So instinctively, you said, well, this needs to be minimalist. What's the crafting process like?
Well, I'm a designer and an
Okay.
artist before anything else, so that comes first. So I think that when developing any brand aesthetic, it's all about, who are we talking to? And what are we trying to do with it? So there was a goal for us from the beginning to make this brand accessible to anybody, not just in the natural channel, but to anybody. And we set out to make a brand that's really accessible in that way, that's poppy and bright and easy to understand. So obviously, own the melon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you make something that looks almost like a sports drink, but that says fresh?
Yeah.
So we designed everything around the aesthetic of the watermelon.
So the poppy idea, I think, is an interesting one. I mean, so there's a difference between sort of pop and rock. And is that how you were thinking about it when you aligned it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think pop is something that is accessible, right? So we very much went into it with the characteristics of what pop is.
Yep.
Bright, colorful, simple, visually communicative. It's almost like actions speak louder than words. Like the aesthetic speaks louder than the words on it.
Yep. Now, I think we can, since we know that all these things are interconnected, I want to jump to this integrated communications approach that you talked about. Just as with the aesthetic and the integrated communications, how do you know if it's off? What are your indicators, and how do you recalibrate?
I think that a lot of that has to do with getting out into the world and knowing who's talking to who. So when our baby dolls are out talking to consumers and talking to people, I get feedback on that as it relates to the brand. There has been trial with messaging, and we'll know what's working, what's not working, what people are engaging with, what people like, what they don't like, and we'll pivot. So what I've shown here today is a very concise timeline of our history, but there are a lot of things that were smattered in between that where, there was a period where we didn't really know at the very beginning, kind of before we understood hydration, because neither Harlan or I and our original Band of Gypsies were from beverage, really knew the positioning of this. So there's all kinds of sexy graphics that are telling, a not so cohesive story from the beginning. And then as we see what's making an impact, what's getting people to buy in bulk because of their fitness on a daily occasion, what's getting the gyms to respond, what's getting the athletes to respond, that all works in conjunction with us distilling our message.
You take your best and you put it out there, and then you refine. Are there times over the course of this where you said, you know what, maybe our best was what we thought was our best was the wrong approach. Maybe we want to align it differently, or when do you make that call?
Well, I'm into experimentation. So there were times with our brand, using it again as a case study, where we were going with other messaging that we could see through interaction wasn't as clear to people we were talking to. And so the minute that there's confusion or somebody doesn't get it, that's when I know we need to pivot.
I had an interesting question from the audience. When you've got Xander Bogaerts up there smashing watermelons are pretty. Why not have him smash some ugly ones? Which I think goes to a larger question, is how much of this is sort of happenstance and improv, and how much of it is really tightly controlled? Because I get the sense that it's very carefully integrated. Was that a conscious decision, or was that?
So that's a very specific question. So in general, everything is very tightly controlled. So where my perfectionism shows up is in, the execution of our brand. As it relates to that shoot, we had found these perfect, tiny, ball-sized melons. Mm-hmm. And I had a fit because they were so pretty, because they weren't ugly, but they were so perfect for him to be batting in the studio.
Yeah.
And so, I said it was okay to use beautiful, perfect melons while we're all hiding under fabrics while there's melon going Gallagher style everywhere.
I got one last question for you. Why don't the men wear bodysuits?
We have one bodysuit for a man. It's got a lot of extra padding. He loves it. He feels totally empowered by it. But he's an anomaly. We call him Sugar Bear.
That does bring me how's your organizational structure differ? So I mean, this is market forward, operations, sort of sales toward the back. I think a lot of early brands will push sales and operations, and then marketing follows on after you go through the pricing basis. And was this just the way you know how to do it?
Well, I'm talking specifically about building brands today. So there is just as much emphasis on sales and operations, and our team is amazing. And I'm really only, the front face of a village, because it takes a village. I think that at the beginning, I am a brand builder, and I knew we were setting out to create a category. And so Harlan and I very deliberately invested in building this and, making very large shoes that we would grow into, so to speak, so that we could educate people and own the category. But that didn't put any less focus on ops and sales. And we have such an operational heavy company. And, to take a cold pressed juice and turn it into a hydration beverage that's in 15,000 stores and growing very quickly around the country is an operational puzzle?
Challenge. Well, listen.